They told us the ocean was empty that night, that the sonar glitches were just thermal layers and nervous imaginations. But when the water beneath our destroyer began to rise like a breathing mountain and the horizon folded inward as if the sea itself were waking up, every man on deck realized we were standing at the edge of a secret older than civilization. And if you want to uncover what the military tried to bury, how a single encounter off the coast of California changed naval history forever, and why some survivors still wake up choking on salt and fear, make sure you subscribe now. Because what you're about to hear was never meant to reach the surface. The night the Leviathan rose off the coast of California began like any other classified naval operation, silent, procedural, and wrapped in layers of deniability. As the guided missile destroyer USS Kestrel cut through the Black Pacific in total radio silence. Its mission officially logged as a routine training patrol but in reality tasked with investigating a string of impossible sonar contacts that had appeared and vanished along the continental shelf for weeks. Contacts that moved faster than submarines, deeper than any known creature, and larger than oil rigs, and I was there as a junior intelligence officer, fresh out of training, still believing that every mystery had a rational explanation. Until the ocean itself proved me wrong. Because at 217 hours the sonar array bloomed with a return so vast and close that the screens went white, alarms screamed through the hull, and the captain, a stone-faced veteran named Robert Hale, whispered a single word I had never heard him say before, impossible, yet the data was undeniable, a colossal mass rising from nearly 4,000 meters, ascending with deliberate slowness as though aware of our presence. Circling beneath us in a tightening spiral, and as the ship rolled in sudden unnatural swells, I felt a pressure in my chest, a primal warning that something ancient and intelligent had noticed us. And then the first visual came through the drone feed, a flicker of pale movement far below, not a single shape but layered coils and ridges, glowing faintly with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. And the bridge fell silent except for the creak of metal and the low hum of engines, while somewhere deep in the hull a crewman began to sob. And as we deployed autonomous submersibles to get a closer look, the sea around us began to change. Growing warmer, thicker, charged with static, until the surface itself trembled, and that was when the Leviathan breached, not fully, not like a whale or serpent, but in fragments, first a ridge like a black island breaking through the waves. Then another, and another, each larger than a football field. Water cascading down armor like scales etched with scars that hinted at battles fought before humanity ever learned to build boats. And the stench of sulfur and brine flooded the air as a sound rolled across the ocean, not a roar, but a low, resonant vibration that rattled bones and made teeth chatter, a sound that seemed to come from inside our skulls. And men dropped to their knees, clutching their heads, seeing visions of endless depths and collapsing stars. And in that moment I understood that the creature was not merely physical, but something else as well, something that reached into the mind. And Captain Hale ordered all weapons systems to stand by, knowing instinctively that firing would be an act of suicide, yet the orders from command were clear: observe, record, and if threatened, engage. And as if the Leviathan had heard those words across the miles, one massive eye, larger than a helicopter, surfaced beside the ship. Its pupil a swirling vortex of gold and black that reflected not our faces, but our memories. And I saw my childhood home, my mother's smile, my first failure, all flickering across its surface, while the creature's presence pressed down like a god's hand, and then the water behind us exploded as another ridge surfaced, and another. Revealing that the portion we could see was only a fraction of its true size, a living continent coiled beneath the waves. And panic tore through the crew as the Kestrel was lifted clear of the water by a rising swell generated by the creature's movement, the hull groaning in protest, and in the chaos. A missile technician named Alvarez misinterpreted a signal and armed a torpedo, and before anyone could stop him, it launched, streaking into the dark water, and time seemed to freeze as we waited for the detonation. Knowing we had just declared war on a force beyond comprehension, but instead of an explosion, the torpedo simply vanished, swallowed by a sudden whirlpool that collapsed in on itself, and the Leviathan's eye flared brighter, a warning. And in response, the sea around us began to glow with thousands of smaller lights, revealing an entire ecosystem rising with it, colossal jellyfish, armored eels, and creatures that defied classification, all orbiting their master. And it became horrifyingly clear that we were not dealing with a lone monster, but the apex of a hidden world, a sovereign of the abyss. And then, in a twist that still haunts my dreams, the sonar picked up a second massive contact, then a third. And for a terrible moment we believed there were more Leviathans ascending, but the patterns were wrong, mechanical, angular, and Captain Hale's face drained of color as he realized what they were: secret deep-sea installations. Black site research stations built decades earlier to study anomalous oceanic phenomena, stations the Navy had sworn never existed, and now they were powering up, massive reactors humming to life, drawing the creature closer. And as classified files flooded my terminal, I saw the truth, that the Leviathan had been detected as early as the 1950s, that nuclear tests in the Pacific had awakened it, that countless vessels had been lost to covert encounters. And that these underwater facilities were not just observing, but experimenting, attempting to harness the creature's energy, its bioluminescence, its psychic resonance, to build weapons and power sources beyond imagination. And the Leviathan was not attacking us out of aggression, but out of retaliation, rising to destroy what threatened its domain, and before we could transmit this revelation, one of the hidden stations fired, launching a seismic charge designed to stun the creature, but the blast only enraged it, and the ocean became a battlefield as shockwaves tore through the depths, crushing the station like a tin can and sending debris and bodies spiraling upward. And the Leviathan responded with a movement so vast that it altered the currents for miles, a single coil slamming into the seabed, triggering an undersea landslide and a localized tsunami that sent walls of water racing toward the California coast. And suddenly the mission was no longer about secrecy, but survival, as we relayed evacuation warnings to coastal cities under emergency protocols, watching helplessly as satellite feeds showed harbors draining and then refilling in towering surges. While above us the sky flickered with aurora-like lights caused by the creature's energy field, and amid the chaos, the Leviathan turned its gaze back to us, and in a moment of terrifying clarity, I felt a message, not in words, but in emotion. Ancient grief and fury, a memory of oceans unpolluted, of silent depths untouched by metal and fire, and an ultimatum: leave, or drown. And Captain Hale, knowing no weapon could save us, ordered full retreat. Engines screaming as we fled at flank speed, the sea bucking beneath us, while behind, the Leviathan sank back into the abyss, dragging the shattered remnants of the secret installations with it, sealing them in a watery grave. And by dawn, the ocean was calm again, as if nothing had happened, and official reports blamed a rare tectonic event. Footage was classified beyond top secret, and the crew of the Kestrel were sworn into silence under threat of life imprisonment. Yet months later, strange sightings continued along the coast, fishermen reporting glowing waves, satellites detecting impossible thermal blooms, and deep-sea cables vanishing without trace, and I knew the truth, that the Leviathan was still there. Watching, waiting, guarding a boundary humanity had crossed and could never uncross, and sometimes, when the fog rolls thick over the Pacific and the waves fall unnaturally still, I swear I can feel that immense presence just beyond sight. A reminder that the planet is not ours alone, and that in the darkest depths, ancient powers endure, patient, vast, and unforgiving.